Hey everyone, I wanted to make this video to talk about LeoStrategy. As you may know, I don't know if you've been following along, but LeoStrategy has taken the Leo world by storm. They're doing a lot of really awesome things, mirroring or mimicking the MicroStrategy playbook for Bitcoin, but doing it for the Leo token. By the way, if you've noticed, I've got a different background now. I have moved my office, so that's why the background's different and possibly the audio is different. So we'll see how this goes. But this presentation was put together by the LeoStrategy board, and then as chairman of the board, I am here to present it. We'll talk about all things LeoStrategy and what the team behind it has put together. They've been doing some really cool stuff in terms of development, both on the back end, front end, and also just everything in between when it comes to building a really financial network on top of the Leo economy. Let's start with slide number one, permanent capital vehicle. So what is essentially LeoStrategy? It's a permanent capital vehicle, or PCV, that generates accretive yield to permanently buy and stake Leo while offering financial products and services. So we'll get into all that as we go. Let's see here. So LeoStrategy, permanent Leo acquisition. Like I said, that's the entire mission, is essentially take the playbook of MicroStrategy and apply it to Leo. The tagline would be buying as much Leo as possible, finding ways to generate revenue to buy even more Leo and permanently stake it on the balance sheet. Leo's strategy is simple. Acquire Leo and permanently stake it on our balance sheet. Utilize our balance sheet to launch financial products and services that generate accretive revenue that increase Leo per share of circulating LSTR shares. So one, expand our balance sheet's Leo holdings, and two, utilize this expanding balance sheet to create more products and services that generate revenue. I think something got cut off there, but I don't think it was that important. So why Leo? Why choose Leo? I see that my camera is a little bit in the way, but don't worry, I will verbally explain it. Leo is Binance, X, ChatGPT, and Bitcoin wrapped into one. They actually pulled something from one of my tweets. They said the DEX revenue of Binance, the social media platform of X, the AI agentic future of ChatGPT, and the scarcity of Bitcoin. That's a quote from me, something I posted on X a little while back. 30 million max supply of the Leo token equals scarcity. DEX AI SERP POL equals demand. So if you don't know, X obviously is the exchange app that the Leo team is building. AI, Leo AI, and all the agents that we've been working on, both from the kind of core LLM model and then also all the AI agents. SERP stands for System Income Rewards Pool. That's how in Leo works under Leo 2.0. POL stands for Protocol Owned Leo, where 100% of LeoDex's revenue buys Leo, stakes it as S-Leo, and then when S-Leo rewards begin, POL will be auto compounding, which creates demand. So all of those things equal demand, which is actually referencing the tweet that's posted up there, where it's Binance, X, ChatGPT, and Bitcoin wrapped into one, because you got the scarcity of Bitcoin and pretty much what this slide says. And then you've got LSTR financial products, which equal inflows. LSTR in this presentation, from what I've seen so far, will discuss how they create inflows, which then go out and buy more Leo. Let me see if I can move my camera real quick. All right. Take a quick mental snapshot of what you see there. I'm going to put my camera back. Leo per share is the KPI of LeoStrategy's success. I've talked about this a lot. LeoStrategy's obviously talked about this a lot as well. I see that I'm hiding even more of this slide. Let's see if I can go up here for a second. That's a lot better, actually. Leo per share, basically, let me just read the slide first. Leo per share, or LPS, is the guiding metric to determine if LeoStrategy is succeeding. All of the activities of LeoStrategy's management team are done with a singular focus: generate accretive LPS value for LSTR shareholders. In layman's terms, this means generating revenue to Leo and permanently add it to our balance sheet in a way that is non-dilutive to LSTR token holders. In simple English, this means how can LeoStrategy, and this is essentially the driving purpose of the management team, every day you wake up is like, how can we get more Leo onto the balance sheet of LeoStrategy without creating more LSTR tokens than the Leo we are acquiring? So if the LPS is 20 today, which is about what it is, it's a little bit over 20 now. If the LPS is 20 today, how do we get it to 30 by next week or next month? How do we get it to 30 without essentially diluting the LSTR shares? If you were to say right now there's 100,000 LSTR shares outstanding, and there's about a little over 2 million Leo, as you can see on this slide, held on the balance sheet by LeoStrategy. So essentially, if you were to double the shares of LSTR to 200,000, the LPS would actually go down to 10. Or if you were to acquire another million Leo, but you had to double the LSTR outstanding shares in order to get that million Leo, then the LPS won't be 30. It will actually decrease. So you essentially need to figure out, how do we increase the Leo holdings and the Leo per share without increasing the LSTR shares proportion. So this is the game that MicroStrategy has created. A lot of people call it financial engineering. But essentially, what kind of products, tools, and services can you develop and build and launch that generate accretive revenue that you then use to buy more Leo, put it on the balance sheet, and then increase the Leo per share number? Because let's say that the Leo holdings can expand to 10 million Leo, but on the way to 10 million Leo, you only add another 100,000 LSTR shares to the balance sheet. Now the LSTR outstanding shares increase from 100,000 to 200,000, but the Leo holdings increase by 8 million from the current number. So that's a 5x. So you've 2x the LSTR shares, but you've 5x the Leo holdings, which means that the LSTR price will actually increase exponentially. So pretty interesting financial engineering that goes on to create these kinds of things. One of which is called Surge, which kind of mimics STRK. And I believe the slides will get into that later. But just to finish this out, they've just got the Leo price here, the LSTR price, and then the current Leo per share or LPS, which is 20 or 20.019. And then and by the way, it's up 100% this month. So it's doubled in the 30 days, I think. And then the Leo holdings, which are just over 2 million Leo, which have also doubled this month. And Surge. So Surge is the first derivative by LeoStrategy. Surge is the first derivative offered by LeoStrategy. It is a preferred token that has a $1 floor price, pays an 18.5% effective yield every single week, and comes with a conversion option attached. The conversion option allows any holder to convert to LSTR tokens at a 50-to-1 ratio. This gives Surge unlimited potential upside while paying a higher industry average yield, 18.5% versus HBD's 15%. And it also pays it every week, whereas HBD pays it every month. So if you actually put that into a compounding calculator, if you were to compound the Surge yield, you'd actually make significantly more than 18.5% as opposed to HBD, since you're compounding 52 times a year instead of 12 with HBD. They've got the Surge price, which is just over 80 cents right now. So obviously in the pre-sale, Surge is selling at a discount. So the initial discount was 90 cents. Hive's price has since dropped pretty significantly. So since Surge is priced in the pre-sale against Hive, that means that the current Surge price is actually closer to 80 cents now, which means that you're actually buying it at a 20% discount, since the stated floor price of Surge is $1. I believe the next slide is going to get into that. If it doesn't, I'll talk about it more. The effective yield is 18.5%. So to calculate effective yield, the easiest way is actually to go on Threads, use the Surge manager. You can type !Surge space stats, and it will show you all this in real time. It'll comment a thread. But the way to calculate effective yield is basically to take the $0.15 dividend per year that Surge pays per token, then divide it by the price you pay for Surge. So if you buy one Surge for 80.9 cents, you're still getting paid 15 cents per Surge. That the yield is fixed. So if you're able to buy Surge less than $1, you're actually getting more than 15%, because the stated yield is 15% at $1 per Surge. So if you buy it at this price, 80.9 cents, you're actually getting about 18.5% effective yield, because you take 0.15 divided by 80.9. So hopefully that makes sense. Left in the pre-sale is 445,966.636. And they've sold 54,033 shares and 0.364 in the first week. Surge has been live, I think, for about a week. And that's how many have sold so far, which is actually really solid. It's over 10%. This one is talking about the Surge manager. Like I just said, you can move my camera again. I'm all over the place today. There we go. So the Surge manager essentially works very similar to the LSTR.voter manager. You can now call Surge commands directly on Threads, and this will show you the holders. It'll show you the rich list. It'll show you the current Surge price. It'll show you the circulating supply, how many Surge exist, which is 500,000 in the pre-sale. There's 162 holders right now. Stated yield, like I said, 15%, but the effective yield is over 18.5%. Then what else can you see here? There's a handful of commands. You can do !Surge help, and that will show you all the available commands. You can also see your Surge holdings and your earnings, lifetime earnings. So they pulled the screenshot from when I pulled up the Surge yield manager. So this shows my current Surge balance of 397.21 Surge. The weekly yield that you can expect from that is about $1.14. And so far I've gotten there's only been one dividend payment so far, because it's been live for about a week. So I've gotten paid 0.113 LSTR or $1.14 my reward preference is LSTR. So you can actually choose to be paid in LSTR or HBD. The default is HBD. If you choose LSTR, what happens is on Mondays when the payout goes through, the Surge Yield account swaps HBD for LSTR at the market and then sends you the LSTR. So it allows you to auto compound LSTR, but then it also increases the demand for LSTR since all that Surge Yield is getting automatically swapped. So pretty interesting economics behind that. And then obviously the manager lets you get help directly on threads and manage everything, see all the stats. Makes it super easy. I really like the way LeoStrategy focused on making things directly on threads. I think it goes to show that they are focused on how they can add value to the Leo ecosystem. And one of the best ways to do that is not to put things in Discord or create their own Discord or do all that, but rather put all the things on chain, put them directly on InLeo, because it makes more engagement on InLeo, which obviously drives more value to the Leo token and the SERP. So I think they're doing a really good job actually of not only building these products and services to generate value for their own balance sheet in terms of buying Leo and putting it on the balance sheet, but actually generating value for the Leo token economy itself, which obviously actually makes their strategy more successful, similar to MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor and Bitcoin, where it's in Michael Saylor's interest to prop up Bitcoin and essentially find ways to add value to the Bitcoin ecosystem, because obviously his balance sheet is made up of Bitcoin. So with LeoStrategy, it's essentially the same thing. Their balance sheet is made up of Leo. So they're going to generally tend to do things that are valuable for Leo in the long run. So I see this as a really good force for good. So volatility harvesting, market making Leo, LSTR, and LSTR derivatives like Surge. Core to the business of LeoStrategy is market making, aka volatility harvesting. As the market for Leo, LSTR, and LSTR derivatives grow, we expect market making to be one of the major sources of revenue we capture to generate accretive LPS, or Leo per share, yield for LSTR token holders. Permanently accumulating Leo using the profits from market arbitrage. Cross-chain Leo pairs, and then they listed Leo, HE Leo, B Leo, and P Leo. LSTR pairs, LSTR Leo, LSTR order book, wrapped LSTR in the future. Surge pairs, Surge Leo, Surge order book, wrapped Surge in the future. And I know when it comes to wrap tokens and LSTR, the talk of the board right now is putting all this stuff on Solana and using essentially copy pasting the bridge technology that we've built for Leo, for B Leo, P Leo, etc., and then using it to create something like a Solana version of LSTR, Solana version of Surge that can be bridged seamlessly between Hive Engine and Solana. So this would actually expand the whole Leo economy over to Solana. And I think there's a lot of kind of degen activity on Solana that LeoStrategy can definitely tap into and find a lot of institutional investors as well that might be interested in essentially a micro strategy, which is MicroStrategy on a very small scale, doing it with Leo as opposed to doing it with Bitcoin. Pretty interesting there. And then they've talked about the Leo volume, which is $1.12 million in the past 30 days, and the LSTR volume, which is $84,000 in the past 30 days. Surge volume, in the way again, let me go back up here. Surge volume says TBD, trading launches after the pre-sale sells out. So what you're seeing here, and I find this to be probably the most interesting part of LeoStrategy now and in the future, and I know that this is like the number one focus on their roadmap right now, is market making, because market making is such a big economic activity. It can create a ton of revenue. It can create very outsized revenue relative to how big the company is. If you think about it, if you have a few market makers on a few different pairs that are working very well, you could be generating tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month. So a lot of that is dependent on the volume of the things you're market making. So what LeoStrategy is doing really well here is they've got the Leo market, and then they're working on, I know, the cross-chain Leo pairs like G Leo, B Leo, and P Leo, which, by the way, they're going to have a moat around, because we're going to whitelist the LeoStrategy address for market making. So that will actually give LeoStrategy a competitive advantage to other market making bots. So I actually think LeoStrategy will be pretty much the monopolize the cross-chain Leo pairs in terms of, which is actually a great thing for the Leo economy. Right now, you have arbitrage bots that obviously profit from arbitraging, and it's great because it makes the Leo pairs priced correctly. But then they take the profits and run with them, essentially. They take them out of the ecosystem. What LeoStrategy can do is obviously do the same market making, be whitelisted for a cheaper fee, which means they can outperform all the other bots, essentially monopolize the cross-chain market making. And then instead of running away with all the profits, they actually just take all the profits and plow them back into Leo and add that Leo to their balance sheet, which then allows them to expand all of their activity and go out and do more things like surge and then acquire obviously more and more Leo. It's just really fascinating the way they're going about this. Leo's obviously got a really interesting market when it comes to market making. And then LSTR now has the LSTR Leo pair and the LSTR order book. So that's two things that can be arbitraged and markets can be made with those. And the volume, as you can see, 84,000 in the last 30 days. LSTR has only been on the open market for, I think, less than 30 days because of I don't remember the exact day the initial sale sold out. I believe it was sometime, what was it? Sometime 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. LSTR has been live in the open market for like less than a month. It's already doing 84,000. And then surge volume, when surge sells out, I think, in my opinion, I think surge actually will trade more volume than LSTR, or at least pretty close to it. A big reason for that is the LSTR pool was seeded with $5,000 and the surge pool is going to be seeded with $50,000. So I think that alone is going to have a pretty big impact on trading volume. So you combine all these trading volumes and then potentially other derivatives in the future down the road. And now you actually have, because when the surge sells out, now you've got two more pairs that are added to the market making potential of LeoStrategy. So now you've got, how many pairs is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you've got essentially 9 different pairs, and then add on top. Then also, by the way, I didn't even count all the different Hive engine pools for Leo there's a ton of pools for Leo on Hive. So really you've got north of 10 different trading pairs that can be arbitraged by LeoStrategy and can be done with a moat. Since obviously between Leo and LSTR derivatives, LeoStrategy is going to have essentially a monopoly on all when it comes to market making. All that profit gets generated and then obviously buys more Leo, puts it on the balance sheet, and allows really the whole system to expand. So really what you've got here is a flywheel. You've got this flywheel that's got some momentum. And when you fuel that flywheel and you add more momentum to it, it can expand and the flywheel can spin faster. So think about how market making is probably going to be the #1 source of revenue for LeoStrategy. So if LeoStrategy can grow the Leo volume, it can grow the LSTR volume, it can grow the surge volume, it can grow the volume of other derivatives in the future. As the volume grows, LeoStrategy generates more revenue. As LeoStrategy generates more revenue, it buys more Leo. That causes the Leo price to increase, which not only is the LeoStrategy balance sheet increasing from the price of Leo going up, it's also increasing from more Leo being added to the balance sheet. So that creates kind of an exponential effect right there. So really you just see the balance sheet expand, and through balance sheet expansion, you can then see more derivatives. And I hope you're catching on to what I'm getting at here, which is essentially you fuel the fire, creates more fuel, and it continues to fuel itself. And once you get this momentum off the ground, this is how you create something like a MicroStrategy, which is worth north of $100 billion now. Really what they did is they harnessed this flywheel with Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin price started going up. Then they said, okay, time to launch derivatives. They started launching STRK, which is very similar to Surge. That's what that was modeled after. Things like Stride, Strife, Stretch, etc. So they launched a bunch of derivatives on top of the MSTR volume. So now they've got the Bitcoin volume, MSTR volume, Stride volume, Strike volume, Stretch volume, etc. And all those volumes are then being market made by MicroStrategy. They generate revenue. A portion of that revenue's got to pay the dividends on all the different derivatives. And then the rest of the revenue gets used to buy more Bitcoin, add it to the balance sheet. Price of Bitcoin goes up. MicroStrategy's holdings of Bitcoin goes up. Bitcoin per share goes up, which causes the MSTR price to go up. And then they're continuing to market make all of that. And you see the flywheel just in motion at a scale of $100 billion. So what LeoStrategy is now going to do is that entire same playbook, but I actually think they can do it a lot better. And we'll get into that into the next slides. But they're doing that exact same playbook, getting that flywheel off the ground, seeing that volume grow on Leo, LSTR, and all the LSTR derivatives, and then market making all those different pairs to generate revenue, which will then just expand the whole thing. So hopefully that makes sense. I know the flywheel thing is in the clouds a little bit, let's say. So what I was getting into is that I think LeoStrategy is actually a lot more efficient at generating revenue than something like a MicroStrategy. Part of this has to do with the scale that MicroStrategy operates at. If they generate $1 million a month even, that's just not really, it has very little impact because MicroStrategy is already so big. So the key difference here, and also MicroStrategy has a lot more overhead, publicly traded company, etc. LeoStrategy can launch little niche products and services that even if they generate $100 a month, it actually has a pretty material impact on the balance sheet. And it can slowly build all these different things and scale them up. The first real iteration of this has been LSTR.voter. So LSTR.voter is the first revenue generating product that supports threads curation. LSTR.voter is our first product that actually generates revenue. It allows users to delegate Leo power to LSTR.voter on InLeo. Then LSTR.voter curates and earns rewards. Daily yield is paid to all delegators from the curation rewards. So better efficiency equals more curation rewards. Utility for LSTR holders, so as you can do !vote to vote on other people's threads. And then if you post threads as an LSTR holder, you actually get voted on your own threads. And then it's focused on threads curation, so it doesn't do any blog post curation, it only does threads. And this obviously helps grow InLeo, helps grow the engagement on threads. I think we've already seen a pretty material growth in threads engagement overall. And then also it generates a 10% management fee on the curation rewards, which is accretive Leo per share for LSTR token holders. And then on the right side, you see a little screenshot showing the LSTR voter bot statistics. So you can see the LSTR price there, how much Leo power is delegated to the bot, which is 3.1 million as of today, 105 unique delegating accounts, and the rewards distributed, they're distributed every single day at 0 o'clock UTC. The rewards distributed are 78.679 Leo and 12.091 LSTR. Obviously with this, you also can get paid in either Leo or LSTR. Same way as the surge yield. If you want to get paid in LSTR, you essentially just do !LSTR, and then the bot will swap Leo into LSTR and then pay you your daily. So again, what I was getting at is LeoStrategy is able to launch these very niche, small products and services that actually grow the Leo economy and the Leo ecosystem, and they can generate revenue. This is not generating that much revenue. I think, what does it generate? I think it's generating roughly on order of 300 to 1,000 Leo per month. So the actual Leo that this is generating is very small, but consider that's 300 to 1,000 Leo every single month that's added to the LeoStrategy balance sheet. And by the way, this is growing because the bot has 3 million Leo now. It had 2 million a week and a half ago. It continues to grow, right? As it continues to grow, the amount of Leo it earns will probably grow as well, or at least the dollar value of it will grow. And all of that is a $0 acquisition for more Leo that gets added to the balance sheet, which then lets them build more and more products and services. And like I said, that expanding balance sheet creates essentially fuel for the flywheel that will then let them create more products and services in the future. So things like LSTR.voter really excite me because it's a way for LeoStrategy to actually not only acquire Leo through purchases, but acquire Leo through revenue generating products and services that just autonomously run, generate some management fees. In this example, send it to the LeoStrategy account and then either get converted into Leo or they're already Leo in this case, and then added to the balance sheet permanently, which obviously raises the LPS. So if you can imagine a future where LeoStrategy has this and a handful of other products and services, and they're all generating more and more revenue that buy Leo, you can imagine they could just sit back and watch the balance sheet expand. Obviously, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to have things like this that accelerate the expansion, then use that expansion to generate more products and services and just keep going. So I could see a future where there's hundreds of products and services. I could also see a future, and I know this has been talked about on the board and publicly as well, so I can say it. There's plenty of products and services that can be created for other ecosystems, generate revenue, bring that revenue back, buy Leo, and add it to the balance sheet. So things like running a Thorchain node or running a Maya node or running a chain flip broker, things like that can actually be done as well by LeoStrategy to earn revenue, bring it back to the mothership, if you want to call it, buy Leo, add it to the balance sheet. Find it very fascinating for them to be doing things like this and doing them so quickly, by the way. LSTR.voter went live, I think, within a week of the LSTR token sale selling out. Maybe even may have gone out the same day. It was something like that. What's next? I'm gonna have to read from my other screen because I can't see it over my mic. Market maker, surge pre-sale sold out, collateralized lending, and more. LeoStrategy has only just begun. Selling out the initial sale of LSTR a few weeks ago was truly a stepping off point for what we intend to build. LeoStrategy is a permanent capital vehicle that continuously acquires Leo and permanently adds it to our balance sheet. We build financial products and services with our balance sheet as the unstoppable bedrock foundation. As we continue to release new products and services, we'll continue to expand our balance sheet, which will give way to more accretive activities. Leo per share LPS is the metric of our success. Track it transparently on chain and watch us grow. Yeah, I think LPS and Leo per share in general, definitely the number one way you can track LeoStrategy's growth, see how they perform. Really, it's the number one thing I track. It's every day when I look at LeoStrategy and I measure how well they're doing, it's that LPS metric that matters to me. A week or two ago, it was like 15 LPS. A couple weeks ago, it was like 10 LPS. And today it's 20. I think we're probably a week from now or 2 weeks from now, it'll be closer to 25 and it'll just keep growing. And right now they're growing at 100% growth rate per month. Obviously, that may slow down as they get bigger and bigger. But as they get bigger and bigger, like I said, the flywheel gets bigger and bigger. So I wouldn't necessarily listen to me that it's going to slow down that much anytime soon. I find what they're doing to be incredibly fascinating. I think the number one thing for me is watching this market maker go live and then seeing them start to market make all the pairs and generate revenue and expand the balance sheet even further. Surge is very fascinating to me. I've been unstaking my HBD and getting ready to plow it into Surge. So I'd love to have a huge stack of it. Having something with downside protection, $1 floor price, while also having potentially unlimited upside as LeoStrategy grows, and then also earning an 18.5% yield paid out every single week is incredible, and there's no unstaking time. My wrap up to this will be go out, get some Surge, get some LSTR, get your hands in the pot, get your feet wet, see how all this stuff progresses, and get involved because I think it's really interesting. LeoStrategy has just begun, and from these board meetings and from everything we've been talking about, and hopefully, what I pushed them to do these slides and I offered to present it because I think there's still some vagueness around LeoStrategy and how it works. And I want to clear up all of that stuff so we can focus on how do we make LeoStrategy hyper successful as a kind of layer 2 financial network on top of the Leo. I think LeoStrategy is incredibly important for our future. So while myself and the Leo team are focused on Leo Dex, you've got all these financial products and services being built out by LeoStrategy. It's a very synergistic relationship, and I'm excited to see what comes next. So this has been about 30 minutes. Thanks for watching if you made it all the way through, and I will see you on Threads.